welcome back to We Are the Podcast, episode 2. Um, Obviously, some groundbreaking news over the weekend there that me and the boys wanted to have a wee chat about. How's yourself, guys? How are you getting on?
Aye. Well,
I've been better.
We might as well just dive in. There's no point in beating around the bush. Last week, on our first ever podcast, we discussed the departure of Martin Russell. So Martin.
I'm not even saying he's anyway. I'm just going to put him for here on out as RM, to be honest.
The cabbage, and at the time, at the point of recording, the front runner and probably runaway leader for replacing Russell Martin was Steven Gerrard. That was what, Wednesday we recorded that? Day now, sorry. And yesterday evening, Saturday night, it came out from various sources, Heart and Hand, Rangers Review, eventually Sky Sports, that Steven Gerrard pulled out of the interview process. Obviously, there isn't a lot of there's a lot of speculation. Firstly, how do you guys feel about that?
Right. I think we all said it through the week there that our initial first choice for all 3 years would have been to be Gerrard, right? And I think there was probably a wee bit of nostalgia and a wee bit of comfort coming for that because the situation where we are now, everybody's completely, I think it's fair to say everybody's completely fed up with the way things are going now. It looked like it would be things falling into place for a perfect opportunity to get somebody in who we kind of trusted, we knew. So we're all on board for that. It looks like the majority of the fans were on board for that, and then kind of rug's been pulled a wee bit towards the end. So it's a bit frustrating. Stevie, what about yourself?
I think much in the same boat as you boys. I've went for having my heart set on Gerrard to just. I think the problem we've got now is, to me, in my eyes, and you boys can tell me if you think any different, Danny Röhl's not going to be any better than Russell Martin. So if it is him, then I mean, obviously you have to get behind him, but I'm just feeling a wee bit scared off with everything because we were sure it was going to be Gerrard. Everybody was reporting it was pretty much done. For it just to disappear like that, and if the reasons given, for timing and that, I don't buy that because you don't, there's something more going on here, which we probably might not even ever know. But it's not a great situation. It's bad when Rangers can win a weekend when I'm even playing.
Yeah.
So a lot of what obviously we consume a lot of Rangers fan media ourselves. A lot of the chat and stuff surrounding Gerrard's situation. We obviously living in the Middle East for so long. Coming back to the UK, there was a lot of chat about he owed so much tax to the UK government, and a lot of people were speculating that it was that basically he couldn't come back at this time, and that's what they're going with the timings thing, and it's nothing to do with Rangers. Everybody obviously has their own feelings about Steven Gerrard, the board, the 49ers, and again, it's totally speculation on my part, but I believe that Steven Gerrard probably didn't want to be, again in quotations, a head coach. He wanted to be a manager. He wanted control of his team. And with obviously the recent addition of Kevin Thelwell's boy to the scouting setup, it's probably looking like it'll be another one of those jobs where someone above Gerrard buys players in and Gerrard has to make it work. And that, to me, that's probably the main reason why Gerrard pulled out so late. I don't know about you guys. Have you guys got any thoughts on anything like that, or anything else you have heard that it might be?
Well, to be honest, we spoke about this a wee bit before we started recording there. I don't think it goes as far as it goes to him flying to London, him coming over for Middle East and whatnot, to get to this stage for him to pull out. Well, so led to believe it was going to be Monday was the unveiling. I think it doesn't go this far and from it to pull out 2 days because the timing isn't right. Because I think he was sitting on an interview with Real Ferdinand, which was probably recorded a couple of weeks ago, or at least a week, and banging on about how he'd unfinished business management and all the rest of it. So the stars are aligned for that, and I think the way it's worked out, he's been put off by something late on in the talks, and I think you might be right in what you're saying. But it's all speculation. We can only speculate. Nobody knows for sure. But I think it's got something to do with the way the transfers and stuff. I don't think it. And because of that, he's kind of thought, nah, it's no right. See, for me, to be honest, if he's saying twice in the last 4 months at the time it's no right, don't bother talking to him again, to be honest with you. I'm not being bitter, to be honest with you. I'm not being bitter.
Appreciate everything he's done, but you don't get a third
I would
chance.
take him in if he wanted him in. I'm not saying that just because he said no, but I'm saying if he's knocked his back twice in the last 4 months, then that door should be shut at this point. But it's, for me, I had a kind of discussion with a Sheffield Wednesday fan this morning on Twitter where the guy was saying he's nothing like Ben Martin and all the rest. And I'm like, look, I'm not saying it's the same
Danny Röhl.
guy, right? Yeah, I mean, sorry, Danny Röhl was the same as Martin's, what I meant to say. But I'm not saying it's exactly the same guy philosophy-wise. What I mean is, the same way people talk about Graham Potter and stuff, they are philosophy guys where, like, Amarim's the same as well, where he's like, we will just play the way I want to play football and then it will come right eventually. We don't have that anymore. We don't have that. We've, at the point we're at where, and the owners must know this as well, right? We're at a stage where people are already boycotting games, effectively, because they're not uptaking in the European games, they're not going to the home games, they weren't uptaking in the cup games. And the reason why that is because people are scunnered. Now, the Gerrard was a tap-in, because that would have been one where they could go, the stadium will be filling Saturday with Gerrard in, because
so it's a sellout already. The Dundee United game's a sellout.
Because people
anticipation.
Gerrard, that's exactly why. So they've had a free one there that if it's been the reasons that we're speculating, and again we're speculating, then that's an own goal, to be honest with you, because they're not got a lot of goodwill here. If they make a mess of this one here, then they probably won't get the fans back on side. Because we were all buzzing at the start of the season, ready for a new challenge and all that. We knew Russell Martin, we said this before, we knew that Martin wasn't the guy. We all said it. Turns out we were right. For them to come out and say, we made a mistake, we got it wrong, it's up to us to fix it. Talking about being in four competitions and all the rest of it. The next guy that comes in needs to win the next league game, needs to win the next European game, needs to win probably the League Cup semi in order for us to believe any of that.
For the fans, Stevie, do you reckon that Thelwell and Stewart's time has run out? Obviously, we discussed in group chat the other day, Patrick Stewart is now overseen 3 complete dud managers. We've won one trophy while he's been here. It was a League Cup.
He backed for a month before sacking him because the results were hopeless.
Do you think that Thelwell and Stewart's time has run out?
I think Patrick Stewart, just to pick up there, so Patrick Stewart started the day after we lost to Celtic in the League Cup final last year. So, and then he kind of never really helped himself by coming out with that statement so quickly after the banner at the Celtic game. That right away, that got fans going against him, because you don't go against the fans. Once you've done that, you're kind of losing the fan base, and it's a long way back for that. I think they messed up the appointment of Russell Martin. We had all that buzz for the takeover in the summer, and that was just deflated massively when Russell Martin took over, because nobody wanted him. We said all this on the last pod. We didn't want him. He had to hit the ground running. He never done it. It was an absolute shambles. I don't deny that Clement had to go when he did. That's absolutely fine, but you don't go and hire somebody like Russell Martin, who they must know that the fans are, who the fans want to have in place, or at least have an idea. Maybe no go and get somebody unrealistic that the fans are going for, but you know, it's kind of, for me, time's gone for Patrick Stewart, and Thelwell. It's kind of hard to say. He's only really been in the position since when? What, the summer, just before the summer. I think he had a hand in the hiring of Russell Martin in the first place. But to come out and do that statement he done on RTV, what was that, 3 weeks ago, a month ago, to say that Russell Martin's one of the best coaches he's ever worked with? Well, he can't exactly have worked with any great shakes if he's thinking that, because it didn't work. It just didn't work. We never looked like it was going to work at all. And then obviously you go into the hiring of his boy is is the head of recruitment. You know, it's just, the whole thing just kind of stinks. Absolutely stinks. And I think it speaks volumes that Stuart and Thelwell are the ones that are involved in the hiring of the next head coach. A day in quotation marks, because I don't buy all that kind of thing. It's a manager. Rangers need a manager. They don't need a head coach. They need to have, have your head of recruitment and whatever else who goes and buys the players, but ultimately the manager should have the final say and go, look, they can recommend players, but if I don't want them, why would you buy a player that a head coach doesn't want in the first place? It's just completely pointless to me. And for me, definitely Stuart's time's up. Thelwell, it's probably on a shaky peg, isn't it? Especially with the way things have gone recently.
I think both of them need to go, mate, to be honest. And I know it's mad. It's actual. It does sound mad saying that, right? Because Thelwell's only been here for what, June? June, when he started?
Yeah.
1st of July or something like that when his contract expired officially. I know he probably had started doing work before then, but I think his contract finished with Everton at the end of June. He started with us 1st of July was the official announcement, right? But what there's players we have signed that are better than they've been playing. I'm not saying that at all, right? But the players we've spending £8 million on Chermiti, a guy that's got 2 goals in about 5 years, isn't he the answer? Like, I totally appreciate, like, for the Americans, right? This for them, it's almost, these guys are highly intelligent business guys, right? I'm not going to be sitting here, a guy who doesn't work in business and all that stuff, and totally say they're clueless and don't know what they're doing, right? But they've come in. The only way they make money on this project is player turnover. The only way you sell players for a profit is if they're playing well and the team's doing well, and you're buying them in cheaper than you're expecting to sell them, right? The only way this team, they make money at the club at all, is winning leagues, getting into Europe, getting into Champions League, and all the rest of it, right? So every decision they've made so far has been terrible towards that. It's been absolutely shocking. Hiring somebody with no European experience who hasn't won anything in his whole career as a first manager, backing him. There was nothing like Thelwell's going to back him because whether he's been talking
He's
mince or no,
Right.
they've brought him in. They're thinking they just want to buy the guy sometime because it will come right. Turns out it was the wrong guy and it's not going to come right. But he's got to back him. The problem is though, you back him, you go so far to back him the way he was going about how he was the best manager he's worked with, or one of the best young managers and all the rest of it. For it to go so badly just makes his credibility absolutely shot as well for me as well. We talked about this in the last pod as well, but genuinely, these guys to make money off this need to start making really good decisions. And right now, I don't think they can honestly say they have. They've already admitted they made a mistake, but if this next hire is the same, another guy in Danny Röhl, who might be turned out to be a great coach, but another guy who turns out to be a philosophy guy. I mean, we've seen an interview that I shared in the group chat where I'm banging on about they lost or they drew a game, but the same XG as the other team and all that stuff. And I'm like, you can't be coming out hitting out with that.
I hate XG so much, man.
XG is the most pointless stat in football because it doesn't matter how many goals you should have scored. How many goals did you actually score? I just like all these kind of stat
Stats.
lovers out there that go for it. It's just an absolute joke.
Plus,
Aye.
your
Total
XG is based on how clinical the player finishing the chances. So that your XG is just a percentage of how often a shot or an attempt on goal for that location goes in, right? So a penalty is like 0.81 or something like that because 80% of penalties go in. But if your players that you're signing aren't clinical enough to finish those chances, then your XG does mean literally nothing because the players you've got aren't good enough or are below the average or below the standard, effectively. So when it comes all back to, it's all linked together. Talking about your XG, but if you've not got the players or you're not creating enough good chances, then it's completely pointless. We need a manager comes in whose focus is we need to win games, and that's it. Even bloody, did you see? You must have seen the thing with Sam Allardyce the other day when he mentioned Russell Martin. They've got a podcast he does with, I think, the boy that's the Dorking manager or something like that. And Sam Allardyce said, "Look, you might want to play the philosophy stuff, but he's not winning football games, and that's it."
Well, that's Chris Boyd said that as well. Like Chris Boyd said that after the Falkirk game, like before he even gets sacked. Like it doesn't matter how you play the games when you come to Rangers or even Celtic. It doesn't matter which one. The fans expect wins. Like you could have a season full of boring 1-0 wins, but as long as you get those wins, that's all that matters.
I would take that. I would take 38 boring 1-0 wins in a
Win the
heartbeat
league.
if it meant winning the league. How many times did we sit through Walter Smith and the football was turgid as hell, but you still won the games, So it doesn't matter how you're playing. Like, I get you want to have football making it look easy on the eye and playing all the Hollywood passes and, tippy tappy nonsense and all the
We
rest
got
of it.
to a
That's
European
all well
final
and
with a
good.
long ball football.
We got a European final playing 4-5-1, just having absolute dogfighters in your midfield, Rick was at the back and Weir and Queller. I mean, Jesus, we got to a European final, we cut Broadfoot playing right back. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't need to be the
Aye.
flashy stuff. But you find what suits your players best. You don't come in and go, right, I've got this philosophy and this is how we're going to play if half the team don't know how to play it. Like you were mentioning earlier there about talking to a Sheffield Wednesday fan about Roll, and I read a kind of an article on him this morning, and it was saying how he favours a 3-4-3 formation. However, he's not scared to change if it's not working, and he will change based on the opposition that he's playing. So he's happy to go 4 at the back. He's happy to go 5 at the back if he needs to, and that's fine. That's all well and good. It's a change for what Martin was doing anyway, because Martin wasn't doing anything other than throwing every striker at the club on the park when you're chasing a goal with 10 minutes to go. So that's at least a wee bit refreshing, but you just can't. I just can't see anything but failure with this. The biggest kind of tap in this board could have had would have been hire Gerrard as head coach and get rid of Philwell and hire Davy Weir as your director of football. That would have been, at least then if it fails, the board can turn around and go, well, this was what you wanted, and it hasn't worked. So now it's our time to kind of take the reins and see what put our choices in place. Do you know what I mean? At least then you could have went, well, we wanted them, hasn't worked, we've got to hold our hands up, but it's just I don't know. Again, I feel as if I'm just ranting, which
Yeah.
I have done plenty of times, and I'm sure I'm going to do plenty of more times over the course of the season. But yeah, look, comes in, you've got to give him a chance, but I just don't. I just don't see it myself.
So obviously Danny Röhl is the odds-on favourite with the bookies to take the role. No pun intended. Obviously, both of you guys, I'm not as knowledgeable as what you guys seem to be, but Kevin Muscat's one of the names that you guys kept throwing out there. Obviously, that's another ex-player of ours. Should know the league from playing here and whatever. One of the things I wanted to ask that I see getting brought up a lot on other podcasts is snobbery towards what we have here in Scotland already. And obviously, one of the other names that came here that get threw about quite early on when Gerrard got knocked back was Stephen Robinson. Obviously, the Derek McInnes name never goes away. How do you guys feel now about those two names in particular, or is there anybody else within the Scottish League that you think could do a job for us instead of us looking further afield?
At this stage, I would be Derek McInnes like a rash. Definitely. He'd be a far better appointment than Danny Röhl. Stephen Robinson, I don't know, I'm not overly fussed on, but I would be all over McInnes. Definitely. Look, if you're going to go domestic, if you're asking me to take a manager out of our league to to be in charge of Rangers, it would be McGuinness for me.
To be honest, Stephen Robinson's done a really good job with sitting there and considering whatever like resources the guy would have. He took them. I think they had a couple of games in Europe last season and all the rest of it. So he's done a good job. The problem is, and you're going to get every manager that you hire is going to be a risk anyway, right? But it's a risk. Can that guy come into a team like Rangers and can he win games? Can he do well in Europe? Again, we're talking about guys who have got very limited experience playing European games, but no. See, McInnes as well, and you'll know this, William, I've
Aye.
never really bought into McInnes at all, right? And the reason, I'm not saying the guy's not doing a good job with Hearts now, because quite clearly he is, right? But I've worked in doing Kilmarnock for 3 years, so I spoke to plenty of Kilmarnock fans, and there was at times they wanted him sacked as well. Like, there was at times where they were complaining about it being hoofball and all the rest of it. And I think by all stretch he done a decent job for them, but there was times when he nearly got relegated and all the rest of it. And
Well, he
me,
took Kilmarnock for the championship into Europe, you know. So, and just to pick on up on something you said there, mate, about no having too much experience in Europe. Look at Alec McLeish. Alec McLeish never had any experience in Europe when he was Hibs manager, and he comes to Rangers. I know, was he the Motherwell
Different
manager when
times,
they
wasn't it?
played? It
I
was
think
different
it's a
times,
whole
but
different ball game these days, man.
no, of course it is. But at the same time, you know, how are these guys meant to get the experience? And I know Rangers probably isn't the club to be, you know, kind of cutting your teeth in that sense of things. But look, Europe's all well and good, but the way things are just now, domestics,
Aye.
us to improve, us to
Aye.
improve. You know, that first and foremost, any kind of run in Europe is a bonus, especially right now. Our domestic form needs to be on an upward turn, and it needs to happen right away.
I'm in full agreement. I've said that for a long time, that even when we do go on our runs in the Europa League, that's just, that is a bonus. Whatever we can glean for that is fine. That's fine. So how much patience do you think the fans will give Danny Röhl? How much time, if it is Danny
Li-
Röhl that gets a job?
Little to none unless he hits the ground running, mate. Exactly the same as what Russell Martin got. Russell Martin's team getting
Aye,
booed
same.
off at half time in a friendly against Bruges. You know?
Look,
So we're a we're a very unforgiving crowd, and I think a lot of that comes from the kind of, I don't want to say the older generation because I don't class myself as older generation, but all three of us grew up during the Rangers winning everything during 9 in a row. So we were spoilt for choice, you know. So we were used to Rangers winning things until probably about the time Martin O'Neill came in at Celtic, you know. So we'd lived the majority of our lives with us winning. So this makes these times kind of even harder to take, even although we should probably be used to them by now, you know. But unless, like, if we're losing 1-0 or drawing nothing each at half time with Dundee United and playing terrible football come Saturday, and he's in the dugout, the
Aye.
knives are going to be out right away, and you have to be able to see two things. One, can I see what he's trying to do? And if you can, then you go, right, fair enough. Well, it maybe needs time to be implemented, because with Martin, you couldn't see what he was trying to do. I had no idea what he was trying to do. And two, if it's not going our way, is he willing to change it rather than just throwing every striker on the park and hoping the ball breaks to one of them in the box after a long ball or a set piece? Do you know what I mean? It has to be, right, this isn't working. Here's what we'll try instead. Here's what I've identified as a weakness in the opposition that we might get some joy around. If you can see that, he might get a wee bit more time. But other than that, he's not going to get any unless he hits the ground running.
totally agree. I think with the whole thing with Russell Martin, right, and you can go on about people didn't like him, no wearing suits and all the rest of it, right? For me, somebody wearing a suit, I think it looks good on the old match day and stuff like that, right? See if the guy was winning games, nobody would care about what he was wearing. The, what happened is because he was doing so badly, people were just attacking everything about him. But I think with Danny Röhl, how much patience have we got as a fan base? None left now. We're losing patience with the ownership now. We've already lost patience with Will and Stewart, and we lost patience with the manager pretty much from day dot in the beginning of the season anyway. So any guy coming in now, if it's no somebody like that would we can get behind right for the off, like Steven Gerrard or something like that, then he's got to come in and, like Stevie says, he's got to start. The same thing Russell Martin should have had to have done was you need to start. How many press conferences he done in 4 months, and every time he was just talking about I win the fans on side by just winning games. Then didn't he win any games? Right? You need to just win games, and that's it. Nobody. I don't care about kind of football you're going to play. You can develop your style over time. You'll get time if you're actually getting winning games, and we can see flashes like Stevie's saying. You're not going to get any time if you're just losing games or dropping points against teams you shouldn't be dropping points to be quite honest with you. So I think if it's going to be somebody where there's no, let's say, fanfare run about it, but you know what I mean? Somebody that you don't look and go, like, put this way,
an uninspired appointment.
Heart and Hand put a tweet out I seen earlier on, and it might have been Davey or whatever, and he went, it would be nice to hire a manager and no go, oh, well, we just need to get behind him and hope it works out. Because that's what it's been the last couple of times. It's just we just need to get behind him and go right. And I was a big one for Clement coming in thinking the guy's won a couple of Belgian like trophies and all that, so he's got a track record of winning and stuff. And he was an excuse machine as well.
So that kind of leads into my next question, which is probably going to be the last question, so we can kind of keep this around about half an hour. Obviously, you two guys have championed Muscat in our last conversation. Reports are that his contract isn't up until December, or he wants to finish the league in China in December or whatever. Would you be willing to have an interim manager until December to get him in?
I think, to be honest with you, right, I know the ownership are saying the season's not over and all the rest of it, right? But let's be honest, see, for most days, like, who thinks we're going to win the league now? Really?
No.
Who thinks we're going to qualify for Europe now?
No.
We need to win. We've got, 6 games left, and we need to win 4 of these 6 games to qualify. And it's against better teams. So the two winnable games, or 2 of the winnable games, are gone. So
we've got Roma to come to us. We've still to go to Porto.
Yep, Roma. So if you were to ask the fans now, look, it's no, maybe this season's not went the way we thought it would be, but if we hold off, we get this guy who, I mean, I think many of the fans would get behind Muscat and we get behind Danny Röhl, put it that way, and purely because Muscat's went and won a couple of league titles in a couple of different countries now. Now, you can turn your nose up at China and Australia and all the rest of it, right? But I'd mentioned this to you guys last week, or through the week there, is that Oscar, for Shanghai, hadn't won a treble or whatever since he's been there. Whereas now that when Muscat's come in, they've won a treble. Do you know what I mean? The guy can actually win games. And if you look at us compared to the rest of the teams in this league, and maybe the teams he's managed compared to the rest of the teams in the leagues in Japan and all the rest of it, then there is a direct correlation there. I reckon if at least Muscat for me would be the choice, and it doesn't sound like it's going to be because we've not even spoke to the guy apparently, but I think he would come no bother at all. I think Craig Moore would want him in. I think he would come because
Craig Moore's his agent in there or something like that. Is that what it is?
Really close anyway. I reckon genuinely that if you bring somebody like that in, at least we can go, we're having to wait, but we're waiting for what we think is the right guy, rather than you just bringing somebody in the now who, Danny Röhl, I know he was assistant manager in Bayern Munich and all the rest of it, right? But it doesn't mean he's going to be a good manager.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean he's going to be able to do it. It just doesn't. Like, and even being a good footballer doesn't mean you're going to be a good manager. Look how many times, like Mourinho was a terrible football player, cracking manager though. So I think for me it'd have to be Muscat, and if it's not going to be Muscat, then I don't think there's anybody else where the fans will look and go, right, brilliant, I'm really happy with this. It would have been Gerrard, but that's not happened. So it is going to be one of the ones we need to get behind, whoever it is. We don't want to be negative. We said this before we came on. We don't want to be pure negative this whole podcast or whatever, because it is a bit deflating what's obviously happened, but we want to go to the point of going, right, we are going to have to get behind the new guy, but it needs to be somebody that we can get behind, if that makes sense. Like, if it's somebody that comes in and drops points on Saturday right off the bat, then the knives will be out again. It will go up the way, though. It will be more towards the ownership rather than it will be the manager, I think, at this point, because they pick the wrong guy again, and instead of us focusing on this is the wrong guy, we'll actually be going, what are you playing at?
Right.
We'll be looking up the way at this point.
What
I
about you,
can see
Stevie?
us
Would you?
getting to, I can see us getting to Saturday and having Stephen Smith in the dugout for Dundee United.
I said that yesterday. I said that
It's,
yesterday.
the longer the days go on, the more it's going to happen
See
because
if it
you're
needs to
going to
be if we get
give.
the right guy, then fine. But
Well, yeah, I mean, look, wouldn't it be my ideal option? I mean, if we're going
Bring
to,
back Murray.
if we're going to be, get the headstands at ready, boys. Um, if he's going to be, if Muscat was the answer and he wanted to stay to finish the season in China, that's fine. I've got no problem with that because, as you say, the majority of the season's gone. The only big game in between that time is the cup semi-final. But I would have no problem, and I would be asking the question of somebody like Kevin Thompson: Can you come in, take the team until such and such a time? Kind of thanks very much for helping us out. Kind of thing. So the only problem with that is somebody going to come in and go happily take the job for 6, 7 weeks or whatever it happens to be, knowing full well that after that time they're just going to be like, "Aye, cheers, see you later." You know, it's kind of. I don't know if there'd be too many people would be comfortable with that.
I
I think
think I
by
think
the
it
way,
needs
but
to
I think
it needs to be
Thompson, like,
somebody in house. I think if they're going to do it for that, like remember when Davis done it towards the end of a
Mhm.
season, a season, a couple of
Yeah.
seasons ago, kind of thing. It would need to be something like that. A lot of people I saw on other podcasts calling for James Tavernier to take it and all that. I'm like, just leave that guy alone. Do John Stelling. He's done everything bloody else,
nah,
so might as well
Aye.
have a shot at being a manager.
aye,
So
he'll do it.
that's fine. I think we'll call it there for half an hour, guys. Hopefully the next time that we do get back together for one of these, it'll be to discuss the new
Well,
head coach slash manager.
it'll either be a preview for Saturday's game or talking about the new manager or both, depending
Yeah.
through the week at some point. So,
Any last
aye,
words or anything like that?
just hire Kevin Muscat and get it done with, boys. That's all I'm saying.
Aye, just get the finger out, Rangers. Make the call to China, get the job done. Job's a good one.
Smashing. Right. Hey, give us a wee subscribe on YouTube, guys. Drop a comment if you like. Share us to your pals. We're also on Spotify and Amazon Music. We'll see you in the next one. Cheerio, bye.
Cheers.